Listen, makeup is expensive, but technique is not. In this video, I'm gonna prove to you that it doesn't matter what products you have, as long as you have good technique, you can have the most stunning makeup look. I'm gonna be showing you how to make drugstore makeup look like it's all high end. You are gonna look like you spent $1,000 on your face and literally be the hottest person in the room. Using products you probably already have, like foundation, concealer, blush, bronzer. Welcome back, my loves. I'm aware that I look like an absolute mess right now. I actually just woke up, but that's okay because we are about to fix that. I don't want you to think that you have to go out and buy all of the products I'm using in this video, because the goal is that you will have the technique down. But just in case you do want a full makeup routine on a budget, I'm gonna be using only affordable makeup. Remember to somehow save this video so you can come back to it, maybe hit that like button so you can easily go to your likes and then find me again, and then do your makeup with me when you want to. And since you're already in that area, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I post weekly and I want to be friends. This is another part of my glow up series, and if you've been following along, thank you so much. But enough talking now, let's get into it. I always have my trusty little headband. I have this really annoying pimple right here in the middle of my cheek. My theory is that it's because of whey protein. Whey protein has always broken me out, but I've been eating those protein pancakes and they're so good and so easy as a breakfast, but my skin hates them. Now, speaking of skin, we have to always start with skin prep. You might have heard people talk about this, but the reason it's so important is because it prevents your makeup from looking gross and patchy and cakey throughout the day. For example, I have dry skin, and if I don't skin prep, you will literally see patches of flaky dryness sticking out of my makeup, and that is just, it's not cute. And if you have oily skin, you still want to skin prep because you want to control the amount of oil that's being produced on your skin throughout the day. And of course, I'm gonna be using drugstore skincare products. Your skin prep routine doesn't need to be 4 or 5 products. Just find 2 or 3 that you love. So the bare minimum should always just be a moisturizer and an SPF. You can always add a serum or toner. So today I'm gonna be using the Byoma Phyto Mucin Glow Serum because I like a glow. That's actually crazy. This is kind of like the CosRX Snail Mucin Serum, but it's supposed to really be good for your skin barrier, and that glow is no joke, y'all. Wow, I feel like that just woke me up. Like, I feel like I don't look like a zombie anymore. Thank you, Byoma. For your moisturizer, I highly recommend using something that's very lightweight. You don't want to use a super heavy moisturizer underneath your makeup because then your makeup could start to pill, and again, it's just not going to be good. So the way you choose your skincare products also does matter. I'm going to be using the Bliss Cream to Water Hydrator. It looks like this. I love this because it's a very like jelly texture and it just disappears into the skin. That's what we want. I just love this moisturizer so much. It feels incredible on the skin. I also feel like oily skin types might love this because it's not like a super heavy moisturizer. Wait a few minutes to let all of your products soak in if you can before applying SPF. This is my favorite SPF of all time. It is the Innisfree Daily Defense Sunscreen. I feel like I use this in every single one of my videos. Now, it is not drugstore. It is at Sephora, but it's $16, which is cheaper than a lot of drugstore sunscreens. This is a Korean skincare brand. I love anything that has to do with Korean skincare because they're living in the year 2100. I know I'm gonna get this question, so if you do have oily skin, I would use an exfoliant toner or serum at night, and then in the morning, all you really need is a good lightweight moisturizer like this Bliss one and a good SPF. The exfoliant that you use is actually gonna be minimizing oil production on your skin, so that's gonna be really great. Glazed donut skin is my absolute favorite because when you put your makeup on, you want people to also compliment how good your skin looks, not just how good your makeup looks. Okay, now let's get into our foundation routine. So before foundation, I always use this primer. This is the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. This is probably my 5th or 6th one and it's already almost done. Like, definitely need to restock. This primer is so good because it will make your makeup last forever on the skin. Doesn't matter if there's an apocalypse outside, could be going to battle. No, your makeup is going to be on at the end of the day. Making sure to apply it around the mouth area because this is kind of where makeup tends to slip off first. For my foundation, this is one I have fallen in love with. This is the Maybelline Lumi Matte Foundation in the shade 220. Always shake up your foundation bottles first. Do not pump it directly onto your face unless you want to be cake central. You will be a bakery. I like to use the back of my hand as like a little palette. And then what we're going to do is apply this in layers. Now remember, again, you can use whatever foundation you have. I'm showing you the technique that you need to be applying it. This is going to be your first layer. You do not need to add any more product in after this if you don't want to. Next step is to blend, and we are going to use a foundation brush, not a sponge, a brush. But if you cannot get a brush, use what you have. This is just, if you have the ability to get a brush, I highly recommend it because your makeup is going to look like you got it done professionally. always stippling the brush, never dragging. This is the e.l.f. foundation brush that I'm using. It genuinely works so well at blending out your foundation. Like, your skin will literally look like a filter. Also, I highly recommend doing your brows after you blend in your foundation. I actually make this mistake a lot myself. I'll tend to do my brows first because I just want to get it over with. When you blend out the foundation onto your forehead, it could kind of mess up your brows if you've already done it. I'm going to show you guys my brow routine. I know a lot of people have been asking for this, and I finally feel like I've mastered it. I used to be so bad at doing my brows back in the day, but now I feel like they look so good every single time with this specific formula that I use. So the first thing I do is I take some setting powder. You can use any setting powder you want. I'm using Maybelline's Fit Me. I just kind of set on top of the brow. I also have alopecia, so my brows are very thin, and this pigment left behind is from microblading when I did it a long time ago. The reason I set my brows first, when I use a brow pencil on top, it makes it last so much longer throughout the day. It doesn't look shiny, because sometimes if you don't have brow hairs and you apply any type of brow product on top, it's just gonna make your brows look really shiny. But I'm gonna show you how to find out where you can actually start them. So grab whatever brow pencil you're using. I'm using the NYX Micro Brow. I've used this for as long as I can remember. Like, I don't think I've ever even liked another high-end brow pencil. You're gonna take your brow pencil, this is in the shade Espresso, line it up by your nose, and then create a line right here. Where you create that line is where your brows would look best based on your face. Isn't that crazy? Like, when I found out this tip, it actually completely changed how my entire face looked for the better. Then what you want to do is use that as like a reference point and then create hair-like strokes. You can also create the brow shape as you go, but don't create any super harsh lines. You want it to be very light. Then you're gonna take the back end of the brow pencil. I like to just lighten up the beginning area of the brow to make it look much more natural. Then I'm gonna take a brow pen. This is the Build a Brow pen from Maybelline in the shade Ash Brown. And this is like literally a pen. So what it's gonna do is create the most realistic hair-like strokes. And then you're just gonna follow the shape. It's so crazy how much brows can really change your face. Like, if you think your makeup looks off, it's probably your brows. Now that that's done, it's time to work on our under eye area. Now, this is a problem spot for a lot of people because of dark circles and just puffy under eyes. So I'm gonna show you how to make it look like there's just no dark circles there. The first thing you wanna do is get a color corrector. My favorite one from the drugstore is the LA Girl color correctors. This is in the shade Peach. These are $4, you guys, and they work so just splattered everywhere. They work so beautifully. The light can't really show it, but I do have a little bit of darkness right here where I'm applying it, and you just want to apply it right in the inner corners. Just gonna correct out that darkness. A lot of people use a ton of concealer because they're like, oh, I have dark circles, I need a lot of product to cover them. But actually what you really needed was a color corrector. And now you don't have to use as much concealer, so your under eyes will look a lot less cakey. It's all about technique. What did I tell y'all? It already made such a huge difference. Like, I feel like my under eyes look a lot more awake now. For my concealer, I'm gonna use the L'Oreal True Match. This is their serum concealer. I love this concealer, and I love how innovative products have been lately, but why does everything have to be like a serum? Like, there's like serum foundations and serum concealers, and it's like, okay. I just needed a concealer, you know? But I do love this. This is one of my favorite drugstore concealers. It's so good. It actually reminds me a lot of my Tower 28 concealer that I love. When choosing a concealer, do not go too bright. This is a mistake a lot of people make. If you go super bright, what's gonna happen is you're just gonna have raccoon eyes. Again, not cute, and that looks terrible in photos. Like, if you take flash photography and you've seen your photos afterwards and you just notice like that white line, that's because you're using a concealer that's way too light for you. So rule of thumb, use a concealer that's either the same shade as your foundation or one shade lighter. The one I'm using is in the shade W5 Medium, and as you can see, it's not too light. It's just like that perfect concealer shade. Let that sit for about a minute. That's how you get the most coverage out of your concealer, because it's gonna kind of dry down and get tacky. And remember earlier when I said not to use sponges? This is actually the most important when it comes to your under eye area and your concealer, because when I used to use sponges, my concealer would look so patchy. Like, if you went up close, you would see like little holes in the concealer, and it would just look so bad, especially when you put setting powder on top. So the key is to always use a brush. This is how you're gonna get that airbrushed, like filtered under eye finish. Sponge is just gonna eat up half the product. You're actually going through your products so much more when you're using a sponge. This brush is not drugstore, sadly. This is from House Labs, but there are so many amazing drugstore options like Real Techniques and e.l.f. that I will link below. And also, when it comes to concealer, do not do a concealer triangle. We don't need that. Unless you want your under eyes to look super heavy, you don't want to do this. What I found is just putting concealer right here on the inner corners works perfectly. Now we move on to the rest of our cream products. So always remember this rule of thumb: cream products before powder products, because if you do powder before cream, everything's gonna mix weird and it's just gonna look gross. I also personally love to do my bronzer before my blush. I don't know what it is. It just blends better that way. And I'm gonna be using the Milani cream bronzer in the shade Spillin' Tea. This is one of my favorite bronzers of all time. Like, I've hit pan, which doesn't happen that often because I'm constantly trying out new makeup, but I've been using this every single day. Again, I prefer to use brushes, but you can use a sponge here if you want to. I'm using the Eco Tools brush. There's no number, it's just their skin perfecting brush. It has this really cool angle that makes it really easy to do your bronzer or contour. With the light hand, this goes for our sponge users as well. Make sure you're blending very lightly because you don't want to lift up the foundation. I know this looks crazy, but we're gonna blend it out even more. This is just this initial rough draft. I like to focus it on the tops of my cheekbones going towards the temples. This bronzer is so beautiful. Why would you even buy a higher end bronzer? And then I like to go around the perimeter of the face to warm it up. Then with whatever's left on the brush, you can apply it onto your lids. This is like a makeshift eye look. It's gonna make it look like you tried way harder than you did. I also like to just apply whatever's left as like a nose contour. Also, Milani has blushes in that same formula, and this is another one of my favorites. This is in the shade Nude Kiss. This is like my favorite type of blush color because it's very natural. Look at this pigment. This is insane. I'm just gonna apply it a little bit using this brush to blend it out. Using the same brush or sponge you use for your foundation, we are just gonna blend out any harsh lines, lightly diffusing the blush into the bronzer so it all looks like one cohesive layer. Now it's time for our powder products. I'm gonna go in with the Maybelline Fit Me setting powder in the shade Light. This is a setting powder that has had a chokehold on me for at least 10 years now. Like, I think this was the first setting powder I ever purchased. I like to use a powder puff. These are like $3 on Amazon, and lightly press it into the under eyes. You can also bake with this, which means you're gonna leave it on for longer, but today I'm just gonna press it all in. It literally looks airbrushed. I like to leave a little bit of glow right here because it's like natural glow of your skin, which I think looks so nice. We also want to set around the mouth because again, that's where makeup will disappear the most often because we're eating and drinking and just like kind of touching our face a lot. Trick I love to do with my setting powder is to use a little bit to carve out and sharpen up our contour because it just cleans up the look. A lot of times blush and bronzer also melt away from the skin first because they're like the top of the layer. So you do want to set them with powder blush and powder bronzer. I'm gonna use the Maybelline City bronzer. This is in the shade 300. And just lightly dusting it on top of where you applied your bronzer. Remember, do not use a heavy hand. We don't want to lift other products up. I have a crazy obsession with Milani at this point. They just make some of the best drugstore makeup, okay? This is their baked blush in the shade Rose de Oro, and it's beautiful. It has like gold flecks in it. This color also goes perfectly with the other blush. And now I'm just gonna use a tiny bit of this L'Oreal Lumi Lait Glass. I'm not a highlighter person, but this one is really, really nice. And look at that. She's beauty. She is grace. I'm gonna do a super quick and easy eye look using this Catrice palette. This is the Coral Crush palette. I also love Catrice. I feel like they're just affordable, such great quality. I'm gonna use the shade Coral to create a wash of color on the lids. Then I'm gonna go in with the shade Reef and go in the crease and kind of bring it out into a V. I want this look to be a little bit more bronzy. Using the shade Sand, I'm trying to create a gradient here. It's like a glittery white, which we love. And I'm just applying it right here in the inner corner area. Taking a little bit of this glittery shade. This is the shade Seashell. And I just want to take it on my hands. That is just so beautiful. And just pop it right here in the middle. Those little flecks of glitter look so good when the light hits. I'm gonna take the dark brown shade again on a liner brush. Stop using liquid eyeliners, okay? The best way to do your eyeliner so it's not scary is to just use a liner brush with whatever shadow color you want. I usually go for dark brown. I feel like it's beautiful. It just makes the eyes pop, especially if you have brown eyes. This is the brush from BK Beauty. It's a 208 brush. I'm also gonna link an alternative from the drugstore below. Don't worry about this being clean. We are gonna be smudging it out. Using this smudging brush like this, it's from e.l.f. actually. I don't know if they still make this one. I'm going to smudge that liner out just so it looks a little smoky. And then taking that same brush with whatever is left on it, go underneath your lash line. This will make your eyes look so big. I just added some falsies at the end. These are the ones from Ardell. They're the press-ons. I love these because you don't have to glue them. They just go right underneath your lash line and it is so easy. Cannot be bothered to be gluing on my lashes. It's just way too hard. For my lip combo, I want to go again with like the nude bronzy brown route. So I'm going to go in with this NYX lip liner. This is in the shade Cold Brew. And then going in with this Milani lipstick in the shade Tease, right in the middle. And we always have to go on top with gloss. This is the NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Madeline. It's like that beautiful pinky nude. Just brings the whole combo together. The Milani Make It Last setting spray. Like I said, obsession. This dewy one just brings the entire thing together. And that's it. This is the finished look. This technique is the way I always do my makeup no matter which products I'm using. Like you can't even tell whether I use drugstore or high-end makeup. And the skin literally looks like a filter. I promise if you do your makeup this way, it's always gonna come out looking so flawless. And you are gonna get the most compliments out of anybody in the room. You are gonna walk in and people are gonna be like, who is that? If this video helped you in any way, make sure you hit that like button. If you want to stick around and be friends, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I post weekly. As always, I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.